You know that feeling when you grab a cheap replacement part for your CUB Cadet mower, only to hear that unmistakable clunk the first time you try to mow and realize you've just wasted both time and money? I've been there, and that hesitation is exactly why I wanted to dig a little deeper before I hit add to cart. The market is flooded with generic spindle assemblies that promise a perfect fit, but most of them end up being a headache: misaligned shafts, wobbling blades, and the kind of premature wear that forces you back into the hardware aisle sooner rather than later. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I started looking into a replacement spindle for my 1800 series CUB Cadet, the first question I asked myself was simple: do I really need an OEM grade part, or can I get away with a cheaper off-brand? The answer turned out to be less about price and more about how the mower is used on a daily basis. If you're the type who runs the mower every weekend, trims a lot of tough grass, and relies on that machine to keep your lawn looking professional, you're essentially demanding a component that can survive the torque, the vibration, and the occasional debris that gets tossed into the cutter deck. On the other hand, if you only fire up the mower a couple of times a year for light maintenance, a low-cost spindle might not feel the difference until it does. That's where the CUB Cadet 0240C Spindle Assembly 9-pack comes into play. It's marketed as an OEM-compatible set, and the fact that it carries the exact CUB Cadet part number tells you right away that this isn't a generic knockoff. The packaging lists the same part numbers you'd see on a dealer's catalog, and each spindle has the same bolt pattern and shaft dimensions that the original equipment uses. In real-world terms, that translates to a clean, repeatable installation: no fiddling with adapters or trying to force a part that was never meant to sit on your specific model. I walked through the installation process with the 1800 series at my friend's house, and the first thing that stood out was how the spindles slid into place without any of the grinding you sometimes hear with cheaper alternatives. The fit was snug, and the set's 9-piece quantity meant you could replace a whole batch on a single day, which is a practical advantage if you have a fleet of mowers or you're running a small landscaping business. The time saved on installation directly impacts the bottom line when you're swapping out parts on multiple machines. No one wants to spend an extra hour in the garage trying to coax a wobbling spindle back into alignment, especially when you have a lawn to cut. Now, let's talk strengths. The biggest win here is the guaranteed compatibility. Because these spindles are made to the same tolerances as the original CUB Cadet components, you can expect the same smooth rotation and blade balance that the factory part delivered. In practice, that means fewer vibrations, smoother cutting, and less wear on the bearings and deck. For anyone who's ever noticed a subtle shudder that gets amplified when the mower hits a patch of tough turf, this replacement can restore that new mower feel. Another practical upside is the quantity. Most spindle kits come as a single unit, but the 9-pack acknowledges that spindles are a wear item. Having spares on hand reduces the chance of being caught in a mid-season emergency when a spindle finally gives out. On the downside, the set isn't cheap. That's the trade-off for OEM-level precision. If you're a hobbyist with a modest budget, the upfront cost might feel steep, especially when you compare it to a generic spindle that sells for a fraction of the price. However, the lower-cost options often skip the rigorous machining that ensures the spindle's balance and durability, which can lead to premature failure. Another practical consideration is that the spindles are sold as a bulk pack, so you're essentially buying more than you might immediately need. For a single mower owner, that could mean some parts sit untouched in a garage for months. If storage space isn't an issue and you're comfortable waiting for the occasional just-in-case moment, it's not a big problem. Otherwise, a smaller pack could be more efficient. Who should definitely consider this 9-pack? If you own a CUB Cadet 1800, 1180, or 1212 and you've already experienced the drawbacks of a worn spindle such as blade wobble, increased fuel consumption, or an odd buzzing noise, this is a solid, no-surprise solution. It's also a smart choice for small commercial operators who maintain several mowers and need a reliable inventory of replacements. The peace of mind that comes with knowing you have a genuine match on hand can outweigh the higher price point, especially when downtime translates to lost revenue. Who might want to skip it? anyone who only uses their mower sporadically and isn't willing to invest in a bulk replacement set. If you're comfortable with the idea of buying a single spindle as needed,